Hello.
Hello,
Hi.
Sana.
Hi, Balázs. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you very much, and it's lovely to see you. How are you?
Lovely to see you. I'm very well on this Wednesday. It's a Wednesday today and a very rainy day in Zagreb. But nevertheless, we are enthusiastic about today's talk, and I'm so happy to have you here at our Ciklopea Coffee Chat video series that we will publish regularly in the future. And it's a talk with language professionals or technology professionals connected with language industry like you. So I'm very happy to have you today. And actually, we would like to hear something about your memoQ story, about yourself, about your professional career. Please introduce yourself to our audience, even though I think that they all know you.
Well,
But
I wouldn't. I think I would be presumptuous to assume that everybody listening to this knows me. First of all, thank you very much for having me. I am in a very good company with everybody else that has been or on this podcast or coming or is coming after me. So my name is Balázs, and I'm one of the founders of memoQ. Which is the company that develops and sells memoQ, the translation management system. Yeah, a little bit of about myself. I've been obsessed with computers since the age of 12, 13-ish, which means that yeah, I kind of started programming at in 1983, 1984, which wasn't well. That was a time when personal computers were already like gaining ground even in our country. But this proved serious, so I actually graduated as an information technology engineer from the Technical University of Budapest, and then I started to work for a natural language processing company called Morphologic, and there I think the highlight of my career there was that I wrote a rule-based machine translation engine in 1999, 2000. And the funny story about that is that I have a co-founder here in memoQ called Gábor Ugrai, who used to work for the same company, and he also wrote a rule-based machine translation engine. So we were a competition, and I lost.
okay.
That meant that company had a machine translation product, and Gábor's code got in there, and my code was used to for other purposes like information extraction or narrative analysis, for instance, in psychology projects. And while I was doing that, I also worked on a PhD in applied linguistics, which I was able to, lucky enough, or I don't know, obtain in 2010. So that was when memoQ was already up and running, and I was already working for memoQ in the sense that memoQ was paying me, which was a big thing, because memoQ started, strictly speaking, memoQ started in late 2004 when we first wrote down basically a document of what we want to see in a translation environment compared to whatever existed back at the time. We only created the company with I mean, that means the three of us, István Lengyel, Gábor Ugrai, and myself. We only created the actual company in February 2005. But the story goes back more, because from 1996, I've been involved in a tiny little publishing company together with my parents that was publishing books about computers and programming and stuff like that. And I don't even remember how that came about, but we got into a kind of a partnership with Microsoft and Microsoft Press back at the time, which meant that soon after we created the publishing company, we started translating books from English into Hungarian. And sometimes Microsoft was quite generously supporting us in that, in return for getting the books on the shelves really quickly. And by really quickly, I mean turnaround times that were unheard of in publishing. So we had to come up, and we were talking about books of 1,000 pages or more to be published, translated and published in 3 or 4 months' time. In good quality, obviously. If you publish a book, that has to be that has to be the highest quality possible. So we had to come up with a workflow that allowed us to work with more than one translators, because it was obvious that this cannot be done, and to still have quality assurance that is suited to the publishing process. That's usually 3 steps of quality assurance. Like you have a revision when you check accuracy, compare with the source language. Then you have a linguistic review when you mostly look at the translation, the target language text, and then you have proofreading where you when you check the output so meticulously as fits the publishing/printing process. But in the proofreading process, it's important that you assume that you no longer have to deal with problems like word order or basic grammar. So it basically you hunt for typos and typography problems. And we had to come up with a workflow where this can be done within the time frame that was kind of imposed on us by Microsoft and then later others, because it's not only your publishing partner who imposes the deadline, but this was always very trendy content, like newest information technology, newest means of programming. That means that this knowledge, this kind of content gets deprecated very, very quickly. So it's in your own interest not to take years publishing something. So and we had to come up with this process where we use multiple translators, where we work with maybe more than one reviewers, and steps are reasonably made parallel. And we started running this with Microsoft Word and email, and that was it.
A big challenge ahead of you, and what you had in front was basic, right?
Yeah, and that basically gave that. So it's interesting, and this is what I like telling people, that the story of memoQ doesn't start with a corporation trying to do their own localization or language service provider trying to streamline their processes, but book publishing. And that's where we pinned down those aspects that later on got into memoQ, the TMS. So I'm not even talking about the actual Cat tool part where you actually write the translations, but the parts where you manage the process and quality, and a lot of aspects were thought of. I'm talking about the period between 1998 and 2004, basically. So
perfect. So the project was successful, I guess. Otherwise, we wouldn't be.
I would say so. I mean, we if you count it from the company registration, then memoQ will be 18 years old in February.
Oh,
so,
we are almost the same generation, I would say. Ciklopea will be 20 years old next year.
Right. Congratulations.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
cool.
I would say it was successful.
Yeah, definitely. As I said, and as we all know from practice, I would say, coming from an LSP, which deals with a high amount of translation, word count, which has to be translated and finalized in short periods of time. I would say that memoQ really helps us, and not only to streamline the translation process, but also I would say that it was complementary to our existing processes to start using it. I think have been using it for many years now, maybe even 10. I don't know the exact data by heart, but definitely what we did, we saved time and money with, for example, memoQ templates, etc. Also, it is great for managing multilingual files. And what I can say from the feedback from inside our organization is that project managers like memoQ. So we also had, I think, this sticker or something. We like memoQ because it was helpful. You had your own story, and you are still having it, of course. Ours is that we actually start using memoQ because it was natural. And we also, last month, we wrote a short article about the advantages of using memoQ at a language service provider as we are, and we will publish it as well. So definitely, we are happy to give our testimonial, to put it that way. And also,
thank you for that, Zana. And we will obviously be happy to broadcast this as much as possible, as much as you allow us to do that.
Thanks. So we went also one step further because we combine it with Orchestrum. Orchestrum is our customized TMS, which we have been using for also many years now, and of course we are still investing, and we are still developing it on a monthly and quarterly basis. So this implementation, when it comes to automatization of projects, also helps our production team a lot. Maybe you can say a bit more about the advantages of memoQ when it comes to automatization of translation process. And do you have any plans for the future regarding it? And what is the feedback generally from your customers when it comes to a shorter period of time needed for translation?
Yeah, it's a very good question, and very good questions are really hard to answer. But
I prepared this time. I prepared.
But what I can say is that we are very because what we usually say about ourselves. So memoQ was the first affordable TMS kind of, but back at the time, this activity was called collaborative translation. You may remember the term from before 2010, and that was memoQ was the first such tool that was actually affordable and accessible to language service providers. So what I'm about to say does not mean that we are moving away from supporting LSPs, because they are the customer segment that came most naturally to us. But what we are focusing on, we have been focusing on lately is an activity that we like to call premium translation. The premium translation, we mean translation localization processes where the human actors play a crucial role, or if I want to use a kind of negative definition here, processes where it's not enough to just machine translate and post edit. Mm-hmm. And we want to make memoQ the first choice of tools when you need to do more than just machine translate and post edit.
When you need premium content.
Yeah, premium content, and we have the kind of, and that's why we are signing up more and more corporate and also public service customers all over the world, because they have that kind of content in life sciences, in gaming. But life sciences has to be very, very keen on safety. Oh, yeah. Whatever medical or whatever process or product we are talking about. And while I like to say that gaming is akin to literature, fiction, because you have you have these enormous stories that games are built around, and you don't want this to get lost by just by just machine translating and like post editing. So that's never enough. And that's actually gaming is where our multilingual content filters are coming from. I remember
Cool.
first version, I remember we are on a plane to the US in 2013, maybe. And Istvan and I were testing the first version on the plane. So it's like, because we wanted to
playing, right?
we wanted, we were going to a conference and we wanted to show it there, and we had to make sure that it's fit to be shown, because it wasn't in the product yet. So and because of all this, we are very conscious about the interplay between memoQ and whatever process our customers integrated into. And I'm not only talking about the content sources, we are talking about everything, linguistic quality assurance, we are talking about linguistic resources, and that's where I usually say, and obviously we don't never cease to work on improving that, but what I like to say is that memoQ is probably the most versatile Lego block in the industry. That you can have all kinds of plugins, you have all kinds of APIs where you actually integrate the TMS into your processes, and that's what you did so excellently with Orchestrum. So you know 100% well why
Yes,
what I'm talking about.
From practice, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
And that's where we see the way ahead, that work together with other providers, be versatile, be open as much as possible.
Interchange, yes.
Yeah, because we learned two things. One of them is that the localization industry, and I'm talking about localization function of various organizations, not just LSPs, are getting more and more conscious about the localization process. So a couple of years ago, I was complaining that in most organizations, localization and translation is an afterthought. They just add it as almost unwelcome addition to the process, because they have to be able to go international somewhere. Yes. That is changing. So the localization is getting better and better integrated into corporate processes, which means that the TMS that they use must be suitable to do that. And we are also getting better feedback from customers about it. So what we have a product management team who have a method of going out to customers and interviewing them about existing functionality, or about the processes where they want to see improvement. And our product design, the road mapping, is very much based around this process. So
cool. So now actually you were talking about, for example, localization managers, etc. People coming from enterprises who deal with great amounts, I guess, of work, and they need help with translation process organization. So your tool is definitely something which they recognize, I guess, as a benefit. So from what industries are mainly your enterprise clients? As you said, life sciences, you also mentioned
life
gaming,
sciences,
machinery, I guess.
Machinery, manufacturers, public sectors. We have some really enormous law firms among the customers.
That's interesting.
And we also have some financial companies, not only banks but others, and some.
So a great variety.
Yeah, it's quite varied. Yeah. It's so we are also discovering, because what our experience was that if we want to, because I mean, I don't say that it's easier to target the actual translation industry like language service providers. It's easier for us in a way that we feel at home in that industry. And when we want to target customers outside our comfort zone, let's say that in other industries, then we do well to actually focus on one vertical at a time, like and that's when you look at our website and find an ebook, for instance, about life sciences localization or gaming localization. That's that these we have paid special attention to these sectors, which doesn't mean that we do not serve other sectors, but these were the let's say proofs of concept that we can target a sector outside the translation industry. The strictly,
definitely.
Yeah. So
Definitely. Cool. Okay. And do you know around how many people use memoQ on everyday basis, or how many memoQ users are there in general?
it's hard to say, and if I tell you, it's somewhere between 20,000 and 100,000. And why can't I tell you a more accurate number? You know that not every memoQ translator has to actually buy the tool, because
Yes,
if you're running if you run a localization organization, then you sign up for the TMS, either subscribe it to the cloud, or have it hosted by us, or get the software and fire it up on premises on your in your own office or in your own data center. And then you can simply invite people to use the get tool part to participate, and then they don't buy the actual tool. So we only have the indirect information. We have TMS instances are running between 1,500 and 2,000. So these are the actual translation management system instances that are run by organizations, or even more. So we were told by Microsoft that we are one of the largest Azure users in Hungary. Cool. Which doesn't mean that Azure, you can choose from nine geographical locations. That doesn't mean that the Azure instances are located in Hungary. No, you can choose from 9 geographical locations around the world.
Cool. So, that's an interesting data. You must have been proud in the end, right?
We absolutely are, and we want to tell the world more about this, because it's really cool, and that this is something that only we do. That you can seamlessly go from geographical location to another without losing data or functionality. You can actually transition from a cloud subscription to on-premises, or vice versa, without losing data or functionality. So
yes. So let's touch the subject of post editing.
Okay.
Or AI. Yes. So we met recently at a conference in Brussels. Translation, not problem translation, Translating Europe Forum, where on the last day we have seen that there were many subjects open. Some are the usual, as always, the cooperation between freelancers and agencies, for example, the method and the manner of payment, word rates versus some other types and models of payment, etc. So actually we talked about post-editing in audio-visual translation, and we have seen that a great percentage of work done internally, for example, in the Council of Europe, or DGT, or even Translation Center for the Bodies of the EU, use post-editing on daily basis, and they have said that around from 30 up to 60% of material has been run through the machine before, and afterwards, of course, if not possible, translated from starters by human, while using only the TMS. So what is your opinion? Those data are actually here. It's not the future, it's in the presence. But when it comes to the present, when it comes to memoQ and AI, etc., do you have a comment for us?
Okay, so this, if I'm not careful, this could be a rabbit hole that we tumble down and keep talking about this for at least one more week or even more.
Okay.
So it's like, let's not
Please,
go there. But
please.
basically, I can say three things to that, like off the top of my head right
Yes.
now. One of them is that what I believe is, and also that the human involvement and the work that where the human actor plays a crucial role won't go away. So imagine that most of the content already, whatever content is created around the world, is already translated through machine translation for a reason or another. But there is always a margin, always a delta, where machine translation isn't enough. Machine translation and light post editing isn't enough. There will always be a margin, and because the explosion of content is not over yet, what we can see that the proportion of this delta may get narrower. The actual amount of content is still growing. Mm-hmm. So that's what I see that machine translation is still, and I don't think it will be in the foreseeable future, suitable to provide adequate quality translation for all and every content around the world. That's one of the things. And the other thing is that because we are making a TMS, I'm a software provider, I'm working for freelancers, I'm working for language service providers, I'm working working from enterprises. Yes. We are very careful not to take sides here, and luckily we don't have to, because what we've done in memoQ, and for the record, memoQ has machine translation integration, has had machine translation integration for, I don't know, 8 years. We have some experience, and we have some things that we can offer to customers. For instance, you can choose from a wide variety of machine translation engines that you can use, and there are a whole lot of metrics beyond counting words that will help you work with and assess post-edited content, and these have been in place even before the world knew the term post-editing. So it's I'm talking about stuff like you can measure the time spent in a segment by each actor. You can calculate edit distance using 2 or 3 different calculation methods. You can you can have a 7 or 8 layer labeled track changes to actually see the edits that were made. This is actually, this kind of labeled levels of track changes are a requirement in life sciences. So this is why memoQ has them. And you can also have the so-called post-translation analysis that shows you what resources were actually used to what proportion of the translated content. So what we do, and what we usually do, is this approach of openness, that we provide all the building blocks, and it's up to the person, localization engineer, or the translation company to set these up, plus the automated quality assurance process, where you can, for instance, introduce your own quality assurance mechanisms, either by simply writing code and plug it into the memoQ, or if in a simple case you can actually write up regular expressions and those do the job for you. If the QA question that you want to solve is simple enough to do that. So we usually allow our customers to set up the process from these, but these are very powerful too. And this was something that was said during the Translating Europe forum, that CAT tools and translation tools are stuck with the word counts, and that's and to that I want to say that's very much not the case. memoQ has like 6 or 7 metrics beyond word counting.
Yes, you definitely adapted, and you listened to I guess the users' feedback. which is also important because today, as we mentioned before, it is definitely needed to hear the feedback and implement it after. Only if not doing that, of course, you're stuck, and definitely we don't want that.
Cool. We don't want that, obviously. Yeah,
obviously nobody wants it, but yeah, cool. So thanks for that. We talked about the tool. We talked about how and what you did. Do you have any plans for any new functionalities in 2023? Something that you can tell us before it becomes official?
Well,
how is memoQ doing today?
memoQ is doing good. So the company is growing. It's stable. We are so one of the things that we learned that what is really important, especially for our corporate clients, is, but basically for everyone, is that they have to trust us that we will be around to provide them with services and infrastructure and improvements for the years to come. And this is something that I can absolutely say. I just got tangled in my sentences, but really this is what it's about. So memoQ has always been financially stable, and our growth was always the strongest during crisis times.
Yes.
That is an interesting thing about us.
So
but yeah, I cannot talk a whole lot about new functionality, and that's the reason that there is what we see is that memoQ is full of functionality, which isn't talked about. So what we obviously work a lot about the web interfaces, on the web interfaces, integrations with content sources and all kind of corporate processes. We are working on modernizing. Obviously, you could say that if you are running a software company that is 18 years old, obviously there will always be parts in the code that you need to modernize, because that's just, of course, the nature of things. So we are doing that, and we are also thinking of new ways to introduce process automation. But we also want to get the cool stuff that is already in memoQ and not used to be better used. So we are also have plans to talk up and maybe beautify the things that have always been there but were not very much used for this or that reason.
Please make us use it if we did it.
Absolutely. That's the plan. That's the plan.
Cool. So yeah, you said that memoQ is here to stay, but also memoQ Fest, which returned this year after the epidemic. So we are all happy to have seen a great event this year.
And we are already organizing the next one.
Okay, so you know the date.
My colleagues just visited the venue. Okay. Next year's memoQ Fest will most probably be. So
perfect. We are looking forward to it.
Yeah, so are we.
Yeah, thanks. Cool. We are very happy to hear all those things that you said, and that's it, I guess, for today.
Thank you, Zana. That was great talking with you.
Yes,
thank you very much.
It was great talking to you, and thank you for this opportunity. Let's keep in touch, see what memoQ has to offer in the future as well, and that's it for now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Zana. Thank you for having me.
Thanks.
Take care.
You
Bye.
too. Bye.